Villains. You know them well. They're powerful, dangerous, and often disabled. There's a reason we see this so much in pop culture. And no, it's not just a coincidence. The disabled villain trope is nothing new. From fairy tales to blockbuster films, villains with scars, missing limbs, or using mobility aids have always been shorthand for evil or monstrous. Think about it. Darth Vader, burned, masked, breathing with the help of a machine. Or Captain Hook with his infamous, hook. And even Scar from The Lion King, whose very name marks him as damaged and broken. These tropes aren't just random, they're deeply harmful. The message sent is that physical difference equals moral difference. And that's a pretty messed up assumption, right? It's a visual language that's become second nature to us. But it begs the question, why do we keep associating physical differences with moral failure? Why does disability make these characters seem more frightening? So to understand why the stereotype exists, we have to look back. Historically, people with disabilities were always seen as others. In medieval Europe, physical deformities were sometimes thought to be punishments from God, marking the unholy or evil. And this otherness was exploited by early storytellers to make characters seem more menacing. Fast forward to today, and the stereotype still lingers. The monstrous cripple became a popular archetype in early horror films, feeding into societal fears about the body, difference, and power. But here's where it gets interesting. In modern films, the disabled villain trope has shifted. It's no longer just about physical deformity marking someone as evil. It's often the disability itself that becomes the villain's motivation. Characters who want to fix or cure their disabilities to reclaim power. Take Captain Hook, for example. His entire life is defined by revenge, driven by the loss of his hand and the perceived humiliation at the hands of Peter Pan. His hook isn't just a weapon. It's a symbol of his fixation on regaining control and power over the world that wronged him. This internalized ableism becomes the root of his villainy. Or, take the Bond villains, many of whom have scars or disfigurements that fueled their desire for revenge. This sends a dangerous message that to be disabled is to be incomplete, to be broken, and ultimately, to be feared. And this stereotype doesn't just live in the movies, it leaks into real life. Every year, during Halloween, we see people dressing up as creepy versions of disability. It's all part of the same cultural narrative, that disability is something strange, something you can put on for shock value, something that makes you less human. But in real life, disabled people use mobility aids and navigate the world every single day. And when non-disabled people use disability as a costume, it trivializes that experience. Halloween may be one night, but the impact of these stereotypes sticks around long after the costumes are taken off. But here's where the real issue comes into focus. Despite making up around 16% of the global population, disabled people are vastly underrepresented in the film and TV industry. Only 2.7% of characters on TV are disabled, and of those, 95% are played by non-disabled actors. This isn't just about bad stereotypes, it's about real-world exclusion. By keeping disabled people out of the conversation, whether it's as actors or writers, the industry reinforces the idea that disability is a spectacle, something other, rather than a normal part of the human experience. So what can we do? How can we start telling better stories about disability that don't rely on outdated tropes or cliches? Firstly, stop associating physical difference or disability with evil or brokenness. We need disabled characters who are complex, who can be heroes, villains, and everything in between without their disability being the defining reason for their morality. Secondly, cast disabled actors in disabled roles. Authentic representation matters. Audiences can see right through when it isn't. Thirdly, listen to the community. Listen to the community you are trying to represent in order to truly understand them and the nuance involved in different lived experiences to avoid harmful stereotypes. But what does this actually look like? Well, Davros' transformation in Doctor Who represents a great step in the right direction. Russell T Davies' decision to change Davros isn't just about one character, it's about the broader landscape of representation. Before, Davros' disfigured face and reliance on machinery weren't just aesthetic choices. They were intended to show that his disability made him broken, both physically and morally. By removing his overtly disabled appearance, the writers gave us a chance to see him as more than just his body, focusing instead on his intellect, his motivations, and his complex relationship with the Doctor, and arguably made him a much more interesting character.
If you and your company want to learn more about authentic representation and how to work with the disabled community, then the Purple Goat team is exactly what you need. Happy Halloween!